So welcome to you again प्लेटफॉर्म जिसमें कि हम लोग डिस्कस करने जा रहे हैं गोल्ड मूव के बारे में एंड मोर ओवर हम लोग डिस्कस करेंगे गोल्ड न्यूज़ के बारे में क्योंकि हम लोगों ने अपनी ट्रेडेड एग्जीक्यूट कर ली है और अच्छे प्रॉफिट्स भी जनरेट किए हैं. नाउ वी आर मूविंग टुवर्ड्स न्यूज़ सेक्शन. सो डिस्कस करने से पहले एक बार कंफर्म करना चाहेंगे आवाज और स्क्रीन प्रॉपरली विजिबल और ऑडिबल है. इफ यस काइंडली प्रेस 40 सो दैट हम लोग आगे की चीजें डिस्कस कर सके. $1790.43 के लेवल्स पे प्राइजेस मूव करते हम लोग आ जाते हैं अपने न्यूज़ सेक्शन की ओर और हम लोग डिस्कस कर रहे हैं गोल्ड न्यूज़ एफएक्स स्ट्रीट के बारे में. So gold eyes a pre-Fed bumpy ride to 1805. Gold price ceiling to cling to previous recovery gains below 1800. Falling shorter duration yields offer support to gold price. So the tactical confluence detector showed that gold is looking to recapture the previous day's high of 1796 on its upward march. The Fibonacci 61.8% 1 week coincides at the level. Immediate upside barrier appears at 1798, which is the Fibonacci 23.6% 1 month. Acceptance above the latter will fuel up sharp rally towards 1805, the intersection of pivot point 1 week R1 and pivot point R2. Immediate upside barrier appears at 1798, which is the Fibonacci 23.6% 1 month. Acceptance above the latter will fuel a sharp rally towards 1805, the intersection of pivot point 1 week R1 and pivot point 1 day R2. Further up, the previous week's high of 1810 will be the level to beat for gold bulls. Meanwhile, the SMA 200 1 day at 1792 will cap any pullback in the gold price. Meanwhile, the SMA 200 1 day at 1792. So the next strong support awaits at 1789, where the Fibonacci 38.2% 1 month and the SMA 10 4-hour intersect. The confluence of this SMA 100 1 day and Fibonacci 38.2% 1 week at 1786 will then be on the seller's side. The SMA 50 1 day at 1782 is the last line of defense for gold buyers. फंडामेंटल ओवरव्यूज की बात करें सो गोल्ड इज मूविंग बैक एंड फोर्थ. In narrow range so far this Tuesday, holding on to the previous recovery gains amid a cautious market mood. The US dollar is trading broadly subdued amid a sell off in the shorter duration treasury yields. Benefiting the non-yielding gold, investors believe that Fed will announce tapering on Wednesday but may push back the expectation of rate hikes. Looking ahead, the pre-Fed anxiety and the dynamics in the yields will continue to play amid a data light US ticket. 1 वीक की एवरेज फोरकास्टिंग देखें तो बुलिश है 1794.58 पे. For 1 month it is 1804 and for 1 quarter 1788. So gold analysis find resistance above 1795. So the resistance of the 55, 100 and 200 hour simple moving averages failed to keep the metals price down. The bullion pierced the SMEs. However, it did not result in follow-up surge at the 1796-1797 zone provided resistance. Since the middle of Monday's trading hours, the price has been fluctuating between the support of 55-hour simple moving average and the 1796-1797 zone. A surge of rate above the 1796-1797 zone could find resistance in the 1800 mark. Above the 1800 and 1810 might once again provide resistance. However, a decline of price below the 15 and 55-hour simple moving average might aim at the Friday low level of 1772.20. आ जाते हैं MT4 टर्मिनल पे. तो MT4 टर्मिनल पे प्राइसेस एक बार वापस से स्पाइक के साथ 1793 के लेवल्स पे मूवमेंट दिखाते हुए लगातार एक बिग ग्रीन कैंडल बनाने के बाद वापस से एक बार बाइंग प्रेशर कम होते हुए सेलिंग प्रेशर आते हुए 1790 1791 के बीच में मार्केट फ्लक्चुएट करती हुई. वापस से एक बार जैसे कि मार्केट की कैंडल ये फॉर्म होती हुई दिख रही है, हम लोग को एक इन्वर्टेड हैमर कैंडल का फॉर्मेशन दिखा रही है। और अगर ऐसे फॉर्मेशन देखने को मिलते हैं तो हम लोग को एक बार वापस से बाइंग प्रेशर खत्म होते हुए सेलिंग प्रेशर बनते हुए प्राइसेस एक बार करेक्शन की ओर आते हुए देखने को मिल सकते हैं। वनडे कैंडल पे अगर हम लोग देखें तो लगातार एक बुल ग्रीन कैंडल के बाद आज की जो कैंडल बनी है वो एक शॉर्ट रेड कैंडल बनती हुई दिख रही है फिलहाल के टाइम पे। वन मिनट कैंडल का मूव देखे तो वन मिनट कैंडल अपने तो वन मिनट कैंडल अपने अपर बैंड से वापस से मिड बैंड की ओर स्टेबल होती हुई देखने को मिल रही है। मार्केट पूरी तरीके से स्टेबिलिटी की ओर 15 मिनट कैंडल देख सकते हैं तो ये कैंडल भी एक बार करेक्शन की ओर आती हुई 1793 तक के लेवल्स टच करने के बाद वापस से एक बार मार्केट 1789 के लेवल्स पे आती हुई देखने को मिल रही है। जितनी मार्केट करेक्ट होगी हमारी ये पोजीशन उतने ही प्रॉफिट्स में जाती हुई दिखेगी, जो कि हम लोगों ने 94 पे शॉर्ट की हुई है। एक मिनट बाद दूसरी 15 मिनट कैंडल फॉर्मेशन का टाइम देखेंगे। नेक्स्ट कैंडल किस डायरेक्शन में फॉर्म होती है देखने को मिलती है। देख सकते हैं एक दूसरी कैंडल फॉर्मेशन 9 बजे का टाइम। $1790.09 1789 के लेवल्स पे प्राइसेस मूव करते हुए। सो मूव करते हैं हम लोग अपने डिस्कशन पॉइंट पे। आज हमारी 2 नवंबर और हम लोग डिस्कस करने जा रहे हैं कुछ पॉइंट्स। गोल्ड, कैन इट ब्रेक 1830 on inflation fears? So points to be discussed today. Inflation expectation for the next year. Gold has been rising in a short-term bullish channel. How to trade with forex.com. To trade to watch Euro USD and gold. Gold struggled at 1800. Where next for the gold price. Gold up, but gains kept a stronger dollar. So the recent data and interest in rising inflation has done little to boost the yellow metal. Signs of inflation abound for the global economy, from the anecdotal to the tangible. The Bank of Canada unexpectedly winding down its QE program and dramatically raising its inflation expectation for next year. So, despite inflation running at its highest level in decades in many major economies, gold is trading lower over the past year and unchanged over the last 15 months. Gold has been rising in a short-term bullish channel, so don't tell that to our trades though. So don't tell that to our trades. Though among traders with an open position on gold, comically lopsided, 91% of Stonex retail volume is long the previous metal. Up from less than 70% at this time last week. From a technical perspective, gold has been rising in a short term bullish channel, rising since bottoming near 1725 support in late September, though it remains flat on the week so far. शॉर्ट टर्म बुलिश चैनल देख सकते हैं कि मार्केट एक बार अपसाइड जिस तरीके से बुलिश चैनल बनाती हुई दिख रही है, एक बार स्पाइक मारती हुई नीचे आ सकती है. So, but traders would need to see a break above that level, ideally coinciding with the change in the narrative around the precious metal to flip the medium term outlook in favor of the bulls. Break of bullish channel. So, meanwhile, given the strong bullish sentiment toward gold, a break of bullish channel support near 1780 could lead to a rapid drop back to the lower 1700 as traders abandon accumulated long positions and messy. How to trade with forex.com. So follow these easy steps to start trading with forex.com today. Open a forex.com account or log in if you are already a customer. Search for the market you want to trade in our award-winning platform. Choose your position and size and your stop and limits. Place the trade. Two trades to watch, that is Euro USD and gold. So Euro USD extends rebound from 15-month low. Gold struggled at 1800. US retail sales. So Euro USD extends rebound from 15-month low. Gold struggled at 1800. US retail sales. Consumer confidence in focus. Euro USD extends gain from 15-month low. Euro USD is pushing higher, extending gains from the previous session, boosted by the risk on mood. Fewer than expected US jobless claims and solid bank earnings lifted sentiment, keeping USD. Two trades to watch, that is Euro USD and gold. So, however, central bank divergence remains a challenge for the pair, with the Fed set to start tapering, whilst ECB has refrained from hinting on when they might rein in support. The Eurozone trade balance is due in addition to inflation numbers from France and Italy. US retail sales in focus. Consumer spending expected to drop 0.2% month on month. Consumer confidence and Fed talk could also drive the pair. The RSI is supportive, so Euro USD is rebounding off 1.1525, the 15-month low, double bottom. The price has extended gain above the multi-week descending trend line and the 50 simple moving average on the 4-hour chart. The RSI is supportive of further upside. Any move higher will need to retake the 100 simple moving average at 1.1615 in order to extend the recovery towards 1.1640, the October high, and 1.1690, the high September 28th. On the flip side, a move below the 50 simple moving average at 1.1570 could open the door to a retest of the 15-month low at 1.1525. Gold struggled at 1800. So, gold struggled at 1800. US retail sales, consumer confidence in focus. Gold is set to book gains this week over around 2.5%, its biggest weekly rise since May. The move higher in gold comes the week that inflation rose to 5.4% year on year basis, and the 5 minutes to the FOMC revealed that the Fed looks set to start tapering in November or December. US retail sales and University of Michigan consumer confidence could further drive the precious metal. Weak data could dampen expectation of Fed rate rise and lift the precious metal. आ जाते हैं एक बार अपने MT4 टर्मिनल पे और देखते हैं कि मूव कैसा है गोल्ड का। तो एक दूसरी कैंडल फॉर्मेशन के साथ प्राइजेस पूरी तरीके से स्टेबिलिटी की ओर 1789 के लेवल्स पे भी। ओके सो बाकेट में वापस से एक बार करेक्शन 1788 के लेवल्स। हम लोग डिस्कस कर रहे थे कुछ चीजें। सो गोल्ड स्ट्रगल एट 1800, यूएस रिटेल सेल्स, कंज्यूमर कॉन्फिडेंस इन फोकस। Gold is set to bookends with this week over around 2.5%, its biggest weekly rise since May. The move higher in gold comes that the week that inflation rose to 5.4% year on year, and the minutes to the FOMC revealed that the Fed looks set to start tapering in November or December. The Fed is likely to hike rates once next year beyond those expectations are low. US retail sales and University of Michigan consumer confidence could further drive the precious metal. Weak data could dampen expectations of a Fed rate rise and lift the precious metals. Where next for gold prices? So gold price is extending its rebound of 1724, the October low. It trades with a 2 week ascending channel and at the upper band of this channel. The price is running into strong resistance at 1800, the round number, 100 simple moving average, the upper band of rising channel, and a multi-month trendline resistance which could be a tough nut to crack. A move above here could see buyers gain traction towards 1835, the September high. Rejection at this level could see the price slip back to the test 50 simple moving average at 1777. A breakthrough here would expose the lower band of the rising channel at 1760. A move below 1646 horizontally support could see the seller again traction. So gold up, but gains kept by a stronger dollar. So gold was up on Monday morning in Asia. However, a strengthening dollar and data showing persistent inflation and fueled bets of a sooner than expected policy tightening by the US Federal Reserve kept the yellow metals gains. Gold futures edged up 0.13% to $1786.15 by 12:03 a.m. ET, remaining below the 1800 mark after dropping to an over 1 week low on Friday. The dollar, which usually moves inversely to gold, inched up on Monday after hitting its highest level since October 13 on Friday. The personal consumption expenditure price index continued a run of inflation at levels not seen in 30 years. It was at 4.4 year on year, while growing 0.3% month on month in September. However, US Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said on Friday that she still views inflation as a temporary result of several supply chain bottlenecks which will normalize in 2022. आ जाते एक बार MT4 टर्मिनल पे वापस से, तो इस कैंडल की क्लोजिंग का भी टाइम 4 मिनट बाद देखने को मिलने वाला है। 1787.6766 के लेवल्स। सेवनटीन 88 87 तक के लेवल्स 2 मिनट बाद इस कैंडल की क्लोजिंग का टाइम देखने को मिलने वाला है। एंड उसके बाद देखेंगे नेक्स्ट कैंडल की डायरेक्शन किस साइड है। अगर सही लगता है तो हम लोग एक पोजीशन भी कैरी करेंगे इस टाइम पे। 1788.53 थोड़ी सी अपसाइड स्पाइक। 1 मिनट का वेट करेंगे दूसरी कैंडल फॉर्मेशन का। 1788.28 थोड़े से वापस से करेक्शन के साथ प्राइसेस मूव करते हुए देखने को मिल रहा है। लगातार एक डाउन साइड चैनल बनते हुए दिख रहा है। देख सकते हैं वापस से थोड़ी सी अपसाइड मूव लेती है 1788.6766 के लेवल्स पे प्राइसेस मूवमेंट के साथ। तो हम लोग डिस्कस करते हैं क्लिप गोल्ड न्यूज किटको की, जो कि हम लोग डेली बेसिस पे देखते हैं।
Sibanye Stillwater is really, really serious about battery metals. You're listening to Kiko Roundtable. I'm your host, Michael McRae. Kiko correspondent is in, Paul Harris. Hi, Paul.
Hey, good afternoon.
Editor Niels Christensen is out, and with us is mining entrepreneur, legend Ian Telfer. We're going to talk gold, valuation securities, and even crypto. Ian, always a pleasure.
Pleasure's mine.
Ian was foundational in the creation of Goldcorp and Wheaton Precious Metals, as well as work at the World Gold Council and Olus Philanthropy. Ian, you've heard variations on this introduction a million times before. What's the one career highlight that is most often missed?
Well, the most important career move I made was I went back to get an MBA after 5 unglorious years as a salesman. And the purpose of the MBA was to get a job at a consumer products company. That was my dream. I graduated, got a few job offers, decided that consumer products wasn't for me, and then, surprising everyone, including myself, became a chartered accountant. And that turned out to be the best move I'd ever made.
We're glad that you made the career turns. Let's turn to macro. There was a mix of economic data this week. The U.S. economy slowed sharply in the third quarter, according to the U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis. On Thursday, the Bureau said that U.S. GDP in the third quarter is up 2%. Market expectations were 2.7%. We almost had a big fiscal stimulus plan. The U.S. President Joe Biden said on Thursday secured a $1.75 trillion framework for economic and climate change spending. There's a spectrum of dovishness to hawkishness amongst the 4 central banks, which have varying degrees of worries about inflation. The U.S. Federal Reserve and the European Central Bank are keeping monetary policy loose. However, the Bank of England and the Bank of Canada appear to be more hawkish. The BOE will preemptively tighten to fend off inflation. In China, the property developer crisis was partly assuaged when Evergrande made a debt payment. There is talk that the Chinese authorities may let Evergrande fail to cool housing speculation. China is also looking harder at property and local development debt. If China can reorient its economy away from all the infrastructure aid, it could prove healthier, more sustainable, but detrimental to metals. Tech bellwethers Apple and Amazon both had disappointing quarters. Apple couldn't get enough chips. Amazon was confronting higher shipping costs, increases wages, and worker shortages. For the miners, supply and labor disruptions hurt. Notable was Newmont and Cameco. Cameco had its outlook cut due to supply constraints for its fuel services division. Newmont also reduced its outlook on COVID impacts upon its Australian Nevada operations. So where does this put gold? It was down 1% for the week, last trading at $17.78 an ounce. Kitco's gold survey puts the results of Wall Street showing that 53% are bearish on gold's price direction, whereas on the Main Street side, they had 60% of the people being bullish on prices for the next week. And that is the Kitco Gold Survey, and you can find that on our site every week. Ian, I want to bring you back. What's up with gold equities? We realize that the price of gold is generally trending down from where it was a year ago, but we still see that the gold miners are throwing off oodles of cash with these elevated prices. Still, the GDXJ is down 13% for the year.
Well, I think there's a number of factors out there that are hurting the gold equities and the price of gold, and not the least of which I think is Bitcoin. I mean, Bitcoin's got between $2 and $3 trillion in it now. And certainly a lot of that, I think, came from people who used to look to gold as a non-government currency and a store of value. And so I think as long as Bitcoin keeps getting traction with US regulators, I think that's going to be a problem for gold going forward.
I want to come back to crypto, but still on the side, I mean, there's just been, you see the leverage that these gold miners have and just the amount of cash that they're able to generate. And then also, you know, kind of the dividends that they have as well, too. But these still, at the same time, they just don't seem to be rewarded for it.
No, and as far as dividends, I never thought gold companies should pay dividends. My view, you know, it's interesting when you talk about the institution's view of gold and the street's view of gold, or the Main Street's view of gold. People that buy gold shares are people that think gold is going up. And in my view, the majority of the share buyers are not looking for dividends. They're looking for an increase in the price of gold. And so I see they're generating cash and they're using a lot of it to pay dividends. But I don't think that's the right answer. I think they should be using that cash to grow their assets and find more reserves and get larger.
You noticed we were talking before that the gold miners have been very much chastened. I'm getting from what, and that was when they went on their last buying spree, you know, earlier in the last decade. Maybe they've just learned the lesson too well, Ian?
Well, I mean, I was part of that. Those expensive acquisitions, some of them worked out, some of them didn't work out. I think they've learned their lessons. You don't see the big premiums paid when companies merge. I think that was one of the big problems we had, 15 years ago. And they're managing their costs better. They're managing their cash better. As I say, my only concern with them is paying out dividends in a gold stock. I don't think anybody, except for some of the major institutions that have gold funds and they have to buy gold shares, they're the only ones that care about the dividends. The average share buyer, I don't think, cares about dividends in a gold stock.
Paul?
In addition to the dividends, a number of companies have NCIBs open to buyback or share buyback programs. So it does seem that some management teams are too cautious and perhaps even can be guilty of a sort of lack of creativity in, perhaps exploring more aggressively, buying juniors, merging with other companies. It seems to be, generally a lack of creativity in the space.
I totally agree. I mean, share buybacks, I've never been in favor of share buybacks. Whenever a management team says we've looked around at all the assets available for sale and the one we like the most is ourselves, get nervous. I agree with you. They should be out there buying juniors, maybe doing a bit more exploration, merging with each other, getting larger in size. I think if they continue going along the path they're on now, these lower to mid-sized producers are going to, as they have for the past 15 years, they're going to stay junior and mid-sized producers and no one's going to care about their share price.
Ian, maybe on the other side, though, that it has been a good way to actually kind of sit on their hands. I mean, you do look at what's happened with the prices for the juniors. I mean, you're really getting steeper discounts for them compared from the start of the year.
Yeah, well, as long as they continue to develop them and explore them and be successful. But in general terms, my observation is that the actual reserves of some of the mid to large size gold companies are shrinking. And so to see them with shrinking reserves and paying out dividends, to me, they got it backwards.
Let's turn to Bitcoin, Ian. You said that. Do you see an Achilles heel for Bitcoin, or do you see a way that gold is actually going to kind of, how would you say, an advantage that it might have, or a marketing advantage it might have over crypto?
Well, the Achilles heel that I saw 5 years ago for Bitcoin was I assumed that governments would legislate it out of existence just the way China did. Because they couldn't track it, they couldn't follow it, they couldn't control it, they couldn't tax it. But I'm looking around the world now, and I'm especially looking at US regulators, and they look like they're trying to find ways to give Bitcoin a chance and to try to regulate it lightly and turn it into a serious investment vehicle. And so now I think Bitcoin's going to survive. And when you start to see the big US banks supporting it and setting up this ETF on the futures, I mean, this is just the beginning of the legitimization of Bitcoin. So I think it'll be there for a while. And the other thing about Bitcoin that appeals to the people that hate government currencies is there will be a finite number of Bitcoins issued when it's all over. And those type of people, they love that. They love the fact that supply someday will be very, very limited. And so I think government sponsorship and the finite number of Bitcoins, I think it's going to create a problem for gold.
Paul?
Is there an aspect perhaps that, while you've got your money in a crypto, you can sort of bounce it around wherever you want, nobody can track it or whatever. But as soon as you want to do anything useful with it, you've got to bring it onto the grid. And that's perhaps when the government can say, aha, now we can sort of tax you or track it or whatever. Because what is it? Any transaction of $10,000 and above automatically raises a red flag anywhere. So are they just waiting for it to be, come back onto the grid when it's used?
But you're assuming that the majority of crypto owners are trying to avoid taxes. And I don't agree with that. And I don't believe that. And all the friends of mine that I have that are buying crypto, they're happy to pay taxes if they get a gain on something. But you're right. The assumption of the gold bugs is that, all these people are criminals. And as soon as they try to spend the money, we're going to catch them. I don't think that's the case. I think it's becoming a legitimate financial instrument. And more people are going to look at it and invest in it.
One of the ways that gold has been taking a swipe at Bitcoin is just the intensive energy usage for it. How are we doing on the gold miner side, though, in terms of ESG and kind of getting down our footprint, Ian?
Well, I think everyone's doing a better job. Everyone's focused on it. Everyone has a committee. Everyone has a measurement. And I think they're all making progress. But I think Bitcoin will do the same. I think you're going to see the Bitcoin miners end up using geothermal or things like that to lower their carbon-based energy use. And I think that problem will start to take care of itself.
Paul?
Well, we're on the subject of carbon dioxide emissions. Obviously, people talk about it a lot in terms of transportation, in terms of mining and other sectors. There was a great article out this morning in the UK Guardian about how streaming services like Netflix, their dirty little secret is the vast amounts of CO2 they create. It's ridiculous. It's the equivalent of an average-sized country.
Yeah, well, look at again, the ESG train is rolling now. It's going to impact everyone. You're seeing the biggest impact among the very large investors who are getting out of carbon-based fuels and not investing in certain companies that have a large carbon footprint. I think you'll see that continue, and it's going to affect everybody. It's going to affect the crypto miners. It's going to affect the hard rock miners. It's going to affect everybody over time, and they'll all take steps. But it's moving now, and it'll continue to move.
Ian, I think you said in another interview that mining really is constrained, just the nature of it, and just being able, the simple fact in terms of like being able to do exploration. You just, you have to drill into rock. You have to process all this rock. So you can do some ESG, but you're dealing with a software programming language, which probably can make itself much easier in terms of being carbon neutral. But there's just going to be larger impacts, which is just happening with the miners.
No, that's right. Mining. Look, I was in it. I've been in it for 40 years. I'm still in it now, and it's a tough business. But it's a very tough business to lower costs. It's a tough business to improve exploration. It's a tough business to reduce transportation costs. I mean, there's so many costs in the operation of a successful mine, and they're very resistant to change, And I don't see how that's going to change very much.
Let's turn to miners and developers and juniors, but first, our sponsor. Osisko Mining is drilling out its flagship Windfall gold deposit, one of the highest grade resource stage gold projects in Canada, and with a world-class scale. If you follow the junior space, you have seen Windfall's headlines. Windfall is located in Quebec, a Tier 1 mining jurisdiction operated by Osisko's team of trusted and experienced mining executives. It also held the distinction of being Canada's biggest drill program. Windfall has announced a series of bonanza grades from drilling and a new discovery 1 kilometer north. A preliminary economic assessment on the project estimated that the first 7 years of full production would produce 300,000 ounces of gold per year at an average grade of 8.1 grams per ton gold and an all-in sustaining cost of $610 an ounce US. Capital expenditure is $544 million. Windfall is estimated to generate over $8.2 billion of gross revenue and $1.7 billion in taxes. That's Osisko Mining, and we thank them for their support. Paul, we were mentioning at the top, it was a big, big week for news.
Yes, a long week for news. Monday seems like an eon ago when Colibri Mining announced it is to acquire Fiore Gold in a cash and stock deal valued at about $178 million Canadian, a 44% premium there to create a diversified, Americas-focused, growing mid-tier gold producer with targeted annual gold production of about 245,000 ounces a year. Colibri will add Fiore's 50,000 ounce a year Pan gold mine in Nevada to its existing production base in Nicaragua. Together, we'll have a resource base of about 4.4 million ounces measured and indicated, and another 3.1 million ounces of inferred resources. Fiore brings the Gold Rock project, which has a preliminary economic assessment for an average production of about 56,000 ounces a year for 6.5 years, and pre-production capital expenditure of $64.6 million, which would benefit, I think, from Calibri's proven hub and spoke development approach that it has successfully deployed in Nicaragua. Whilst we're on the subject of M&A, I imagine that Kirkland Lake shareholders would have really loved the third quarter results out of Agnico Eagle this week, where the company reported a 48.6% fall in its net income to $114.5 million on sales of $974 million, despite achieving record quarterly production of 523,706 ounces of gold. Production increased due to the inclusion of production from the Hope Bay mine in Nunavut and pre-commercial production from the Tirihuanac open mine at Medellin. The fall in net income was due to lower operating margins, mark-to-market adjustments on financial instruments, and higher exploration expenses, amongst other things.
Just a note on that, Yamana also had a good quarter as well. Saying thanking Canadian Malartic, which it has 50% interest with Agnico. So I assume that was also helping Agnico as well. But Paul, carry on. Yes,
and I think Yamana's forecasting their fourth quarter is going to be even better. So Agnico, we talked about dividends earlier. Agnico maintained its 35% quarterly dividend, which is $1.40 on an annualized basis. Also in Canada, Equinox Gold broke ground for the construction of the Greenstone gold mine in Ontario, which will be developed as a 60-40 joint venture partnership with Orion Mine Finance. The mine will produce more than 360,000 ounces a year of gold for an initial 14 years, making it one of Canada's largest gold mines. Development cost there is $1.23 billion, and first gold pour is targeted for the first half of 2024. Early works began in March, and what Equinox Gold says will be a cornerstone asset for them going forward. Across the other side of Canada in British Columbia, Pretium Resources announced a new high-grade gold exploration discovery at the Golden Marmot Zone at its Brucejack property. The highlight there was 53.5 meters, grading 72.5 grams per ton gold, including a 50 centimeter interval of 6,700 grams per ton gold and about 4,000 grams per ton silver. Drilling has intersected gold mineralization over a zone that's about 150 meters wide, 250 meters long, and 275 meters deep. So a great discovery there for Pretium. Turning to battery metals now, Neo Lithium announced a feasibility study for a 20,000 tons per year lithium carbonate equivalent production from its Tres Quebradas or 3Q lithium brine project in Catamarca in Argentina. The company believes the deposit has the potential to expand, given the reserves allow for a 50-year mine life. The project will yield an after-tax net present value of about $1.1 billion at an 8% discount rate and an internal rate of return of about 40%, following pre-production capital cost of $371 million. Earlier this month, Zijin Mining made an offer to buy Neolithium in a 960 million Canadian all-cash deal. In Ecuador, Adventus Mining announced a feasibility study for the El Domo volcanic massive sulfide deposit at its Curipampa project in central Ecuador for an open pit mine to produce concentrates of copper, zinc, and lead with gold and silver credits. The feasibility covers the first 10 years of mine life and details annual production of about 10,000 tons per year of copper and 21,000 tons a year of copper equivalent at a C1 cash cost of $1.14 a pound. The project will yield an after-tax net present value of $259 million at an 8% discount rate and an internal rate of return of 32% or 45% at current spot prices. The initial capital cost there is $248 million. Adventus aims to announce a $240 million financing package in early 2022. Returning to Canada, Northwest Copper returned what was probably the drill hit of the week, announcing their highest grade copper and gold interval ever at the Quanica project, with 235.45 meters grading 2% copper, 1.2 grams per ton gold, and 5 grams per ton silver for a 2.9% copper equivalent. Another hole included an interval of 9.4 meters, grading a whopping 29.85% copper, 4 grams per ton gold, and 70 grams per ton silver for a 33.6% copper equivalent. Unsurprisingly, the company's stock jumped about 60% on the day. A preliminary economic assessment on Quanica and the adjacent Stardust deposit is due in the first quarter of 2022. And saving perhaps the week's biggest news for last, Sibanye Stillwater did a $1 billion cash deal with Appian Capital Advisory to buy the Atlantic Nickel in Mirassol Valley Verde nickel and copper operations in Brazil. The deal is the latest transaction as Sibanye pivots into energy transition metals, having made investments in lithium and nickel assets throughout this year. Santa Rita is an open pit conventional nickel operation with a 7-year life ahead of it with underground resources which can extend the life by a further 27 years. It will produce about 20,000 tons per year. Appian will retain ongoing exposure to the upside potential of both assets through royalties and a 35% stream on the gross gold revenues from MVV. What a week.
It's remarkable. And Ian, you were talking about this earlier, because with Sibanye Stillwater, you just have the exact flip opposite, where you have the company that is spending aggressively into region. It's also just taking a pivot. So we have this deal where it was an active, it was an active auction to kind of be able to get the rights to that property. Sibanye Stillwater just recently, it also did a $500 million deal to do a JV with Ioneer. Neil Froneman, CEO, he has a vision. He was somebody that saw that Platinum Group metals were going to be doing well during the last decade, positioned the company around that. Now that he sees there's this next up, he sees this next uptick, and then he's putting Sibanye Stillwater in the middle of it. Paul.
And Sibanye, in addition to what you just mentioned, Michael, Sibanye has made another couple of transactions this year. In February, it bought the Keliber lithium hydroxide project in Finland. And in, I think it was July, it bought a nickel processing plant in Le Havre in northern France.
Well, I know Neil Froneman very well. He's a very talented guy, very experienced, and I love his aggression. One of my comments on our industry is not enough people are doing enough mergers and acquisitions to grow the size of their companies. I've thought for years that size matters, market caps matter, especially if you want to attract the larger investors. And so Neil's doing a great job. I wish him success.
Ian, why does Niels have room to run here? Because I kind of think that in a way it almost seems like, I guess you could say it's yes and no. He is in the PGM space, which obviously has all of the automotive, the automotive application, but in the same way that he's been given room to run to actually really pivot the company. Whereas I could imagine if other miners tried to do that, they would probably get their hands slapped.
Well, my observation of the mining industry, and especially the gold mining industry, is that the companies that are most successful are run by one entrepreneur with one set of eyes and one vision. And while that person's in charge, and whether it's Robert Friedland or whether it's Lucas Lundin, these companies are very successful. When they start to load up their boards of directors like a committee, growth slows down and the energy tends to go out of it. And Neil doesn't have that problem. He's had such success. His board lets him go where he wants to go, and it's working perfectly for him. And some of the other companies, they've got the good and the great on their boards, but they'll never do anything outside of their lane, and I think it's going to hurt them.
Ian, you reached out to us and you were having some involvement with security exchanges and then a company that is trying to do something in the security exchange business. Ian, what do you see that's currently wrong with the security exchanges?
Well, I think I'm not sure there's anything really wrong with them. I think they've grown complacent. I think they're slow. I think they're unimaginative. I think their employees are looking for problems instead of solutions. And so, that's what attracted me to Neo, which I think is going to try to correct some of those ills.
Can you explain Neo and then what some of the solutions it's doing for that?
Well, Neo's a relatively new exchange. I guess they trade about 15% of the number of shares traded in Canada in only a few years of existence, which is incredible. They're doing very, very well. They're attracting new listings. They've attracted a few players from the mining side, but now there's a lineup of people ready to go onto that exchange. And the advantage is they're more nimble, they're quicker, they react better, and they really focus on their new listings and the companies that are listing in them and give them the attention they need and try to help them solve the problems. Been a couple of cases of companies that have attempted to list on the other major exchange, and it was going too slow, and all they were getting was roadblocks, and they've come over to Neo to talk to us, and now it's moving forward. And I mean, the rules are the rules and the regulators are the regulators. That doesn't change between the exchanges, but the staff's motivation does change, and that's the biggest difference between the two of them.
Paul?
I think that sounds very, very attractive because, as with many things in mining, timing is everything. A delay in being able to IPO, for example, by a few months, you could miss the window of opportunity for the particular metal you're in, and investor interest could just completely evaporate, which leaves you either doing a sort of lame duck IPO, or you've got to wait and incur more costs to be able to IPO again or try and IPO in another quarter or another half year.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And of course, I've been doing this for a long time, and I've run into all the roadblocks you can run into and all the hurdles you can get over. And you're absolutely right. You have a moment to do your financing, and when that moment passes, all the hard work in the world won't change it for you. So you're absolutely right. The Neo Exchange and their can-do attitude, I think, is going to continue to win them points with junior companies and mid-sized companies right across Canada.
Let's turn to our number of the week. Ian Telfer, we always start with the guest. What's your number?
My number is 15, and that's 15% of the shares traded in Canada are now traded on the Neo Exchange. And I think that's incredible in the short time that it's been in existence. And as I say, there's a lineup of companies to get listed on the exchange for the reasons we've mentioned. And I think that's very, very, very exciting for the exchange and for the companies and for Canada. And it's in some ways, one of the words we've all heard on the technology side for the past 10 years is disruptive. And people like something that's disruptive. Well, the Neo Exchange is disruptive, and that's what really attracted it to me.
Paul, your number?
My number is 400,000. And to be more precise, 400,000 meters. Our sponsor has perhaps got the largest drill program underway in Canada at the moment, but this company, Newfound Gold, is determined to give it a close run for its money. It announced this week it's doubling its drilling program at its Queensway project to 400,000 meters. It's going up to 14 rigs there.
Is that going to beat Great Bear as well, Paul?
Quite possibly. It's great that there's a number of companies with these hugely large.
Okay, so we have discussed this clip, and now we are moving towards Gold News Reuters. So gold news रिटर्न्स की बात करते हैं. Precious gold price ebb on higher dollar equities. Fed turns cynosure. So Fed policy statement due Wednesday. Silver platinum fell over 2%. Inflation concerns limiting downside for gold. Gold price fell on Tuesday as the US dollar and equities firmed ahead of a much awaited US Federal Reserve meeting that could provide a timeline or interest rate hike amid rising inflationary pressures. Spot gold dipped 0.3% to $1786.92 per ounce by 10:22 a.m. EDT, while US gold futures eased 0.4% to $1789.40. While the market is paused ahead of Wednesday's statement, a persistent strength in equities continue to be an underlying negative element for safe haven metal, said Jim Wyckoff, senior analyst at Kitco Metals. However, recent inflation concerns have limited the downside in gold and helped buying interest. While gold is used as a hedge against inflation, reduced stimulus and interest rate hikes tend to push government bond yield up, raising non-yielding bullion's opportunity cost. The Fed is expected to approve plans to scale back its bond buying program on Wednesday when it concludes a two-day policy meeting. I expect the Fed will announce the start of tapering, but I do not see them giving a specific timing around the rate hike, said Carsten Fricks, commodity analyst at Commerzbank. That may lead to some disappointment because the market participants are expecting something more specific that could push gold towards 1800 per ounce and even beyond that. The dollar index is strengthened, making gold more expensive to holders of other currencies. Market will also be watching the Bank of England policy meeting on Thursday. The week ahead could be volatile for gold prices. The yellow metal is likely to be influenced by the dollar's movements, treasury yields, inflation expectations, and global risk sentiment. Lukman Otunga, a senior analyst at FX team, said in a note. Elsewhere, silver fell 2.3% to a two-week low of 23.47 per ounce. Platinum slipped 2.2% to $1040.50 per ounce, while palladium declined to 1.6% to $2015.63. आ जाते हैं अपने MT4 टर्मिनल पे मूव करने तो प्राइजेस लगातार करेक्ट होते हैं 1787 के लेवल्स पे. $1787.2930 के लेवल्स. सो हमने आज सारी चीज़ें डिस्कस कर ली है, इसके साथ ट्रेड्स भी लिए जिसमें प्रॉफिट्स भी जनरेट हुए। अगर आप लोग की साइड से कोई भी क्वेरी हो, आप लोग के लिए चैट सेशन पूरी तरीके से ओपन है। काइंडली मेंशन इन द चैट बॉक्स और एल्स टाइप 100 टू एंड में दिस सेशन राइट हियर। ओके, सो हम लोग आज का सेशन यहीं पे एंड करते हैं और बाकी की चीज़ें हम लोग कल के सेशन में डिस्कस करेंगे कि आगे का मूव कैसा रहा मार्केट का और कैसे कैसे चेंजेस देखने को मिले और नई न्यूज़ कौन सी मार्केट में है। सो तब तक के लिए थैंक यू सो मच फॉर जॉइनिंग एंड कंसंट्रेटिंग एंड फॉर योर प्रीशियस टाइम। आई एम एंडिंग दिस सेशन राइट हियर राइट नाउ।